Pat Kazire scored his first PGA Tour victory by taking the OHL Classic. Brendan Grace became the first South African in a decade to win the Dead Bank Golf Challenge. And now the season comes to a finish line in the Race to Dubai finale on the Euro Tour. Charles Schwab Cup playoffs got its worst nightmare with the most dominant season in almost 2 decades on the PGA Tour Champion Circuit. Didn't end in the big prize. And the 2017 PGA Tour calendar comes to a close with the RSM Classic at Sea Island, and we'll preview the event with the latest stats, odds, and picks as Prime Sports Golf, brought to you by Pro Golf Weekly on Prime Sports Network, starts now. All right, it's Wednesday, November 14th, Tuesday, it's usually Wednesday. November 14, 2017. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, as we're broadcasting our golf show on a Tuesday night. And I guess, if we're going to do it on a Tuesday night, might as well do it with the last PGA Tour stop for the year, even though we will be back in a couple of weeks for a very short, condensed version. Jeff and I will let you know what's going on in the Hero World Golf Challenge, but then that's about it. It's time to take a break and get ready for 2008 calendar year. As one more event, though, to cover for the 2018 season and 2017, if you can figure that all out. Let me welcome in my co-host to the show. First of all, Jeff Shane, PGAtour.com contributor. How's everything going, Jeff?
Hey, it's going well. I'm going to go ahead and head down to Sea Island tomorrow and take in a little bit of the atmosphere for that finale as we get ready for the break that I think everybody anticipates if you follow golf.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever been there, Joel?
Been to Sea Island?
Yes.
No, that's pretty far away from Michigan. I've been down that way before, but I haven't actually gone to see Sea Island. But it looks incredible on that TV.
Where exactly? It's like, is it by the beach?
It's off the Georgia coast, about halfway between Savannah and Jacksonville.
Okay. Joel Cook, by the way, joining us, and of course, Joel is with ProGolfWeekly.com, their lead writer. Joel, by the way, Joel, do you hear that? Did you hear that sound? It's me spiking the football in your face.
Man, I thought I was in such good shape after 3 rounds. I mean, there's only 2 players that were like in contention there. He got the world number 7 against world number 236.
My man.
I mean, and the way Kazire started off the 4th round, that was incredible. You go in toe-to-toe with Fowler like that, that was a hell of a first win.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt, Jeff, that in my mind, that it was a huge help for Pat Kazire to go 36 holes on Sunday and not have to sit with the lead overnight.
Yeah, I think that there may have been a little bit of a silver lining in there, and he's still young enough, only 31, so it wasn't going to create too much fatigue on his system. Not that Ricky Fowler is any older, but I do think that not only did he not have to sit on the lead overnight, but I don't think they even repaired for the final round because they had to get in 36 in a bad weather situation. Even though Sunday was a lot better than Friday and Saturday, there was still that chance. In fact, late in the final round, they had a big downpour at number 18. So they were just trying to get everybody around as quickly as they could, see if they couldn't finish on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. I should get half a win for that.
No, you get absolutely no wins for that, Joel. Nice try. But hey, Ricky actually, I mean, he was right though, Joel. I mean, considering the time off he had, for him to really, I mean, just have one guy that played out of his mind, to beat him. But I don't know. I mean, some people might look at it and go, yeah, but that's Ricky. If that's one of the other great players on tour, they're going to win that. They're not going to lose to Pat Kazire, but leave it to Ricky. He would lose that. But I don't know. I don't know if I fall for that one. Well, let's talk, Jeff.
I was just going to say we've known how good Pat Kazire has been, on the web.com tour. He set the earnings record on the web.com tour. Some guys get into the winner's circle faster than others on the PGA Tour, but we know he's been close. He was even runner-up earlier this year. He had a runner-up early in his rookie season. So yeah, I think it was just a matter of time before Patton got into the mix.
Yeah, and look, that's the reason I picked him. It wasn't just blind. It was the fact that, as we talked about last week, this is a guy who had a lot of talent a couple years ago. We really expected after the year he had. What was it, 2015, right? And
Yeah.
he had the 2 wins on the Web.com tour. He played well also in some events on the PGA Tour. We figured 2016 we were going to start seeing another good player that joins the PGA Tour, and maybe a little late, but still somebody that we're going to be keeping an eye on. And then he just disappeared pretty much for a couple of years. And I mean, were any reason for that? No injuries, right?
I don't think there were any injuries. I think for some guys it's more a matter of pacing and figure out which courses fit you, which courses don't, where you have your best chance to win. Obviously you see a lot of the Web.com graduates get out in the fall so that they can pick up some FedEx Cup points. A lot of the Web.com graduates as well struggled to get into the winter and spring events because of the daylight factor, smaller fields, and so the cutoff for entry is a lot tougher if you're a Web.com graduate. And sometimes that can mean that your starts are few and far between until after the Masters.
All right, so Kazire gets the win. Ricky Fowler right there at the end, and I don't know. It definitely towards the end there when he had that 3-shot lead with 3 to go, and then as soon as he made that first birdie putt on 16, I started having a feeling that somehow Ricky might catch him, and then especially after 17, it started really looking like, here we go. But just couldn't close the deal, and Patton Kazire was able to hold on for the win. Now we just got to see what this does, though, for Kazire, because it's it's a nice little run here for several weeks, but it's also the fall part of the year, and we've seen a lot of times players play well, like Patton Kazire in the fall, and then we don't really hear about them the rest of the next calendar year. So we'll find out whether or not that is different for Patton Kazire. Siwoo Kim played well, Joel. And he's playing this week. And we know being healthy is important to Siwoo Kim. He had a really good day, shooting a 65 on Sunday. I think that was tied for the best round of the day. So maybe he'll be dangerous this week.
Maybe he was consistent to all 4 rounds under 60. He's hard to depend on because he seems like he'll have these really good tournaments and then just be awful like the next 12 weeks. And, maybe now he's healthier and this could be a jump for him. He's definitely talented enough to join that upper echelon on tour.
Who is John Oda? What do we know about John Oda? Because he hasn't played much PGA Tour, correct? Anybody know John Oda?
John Oda was a Monday qualifier, it wasn't a Monday qualifier. He got into the field on a sponsor exemption, and is actually in the process of trying to qualify for the Web.com tour through Web.com qualifying finals coming up next month in Arizona. Got through the second round the week before the OHL Classic, so I suppose a good tune-up for Web.com tour qualifying, but he's just one of these guys that has worked his way up. I think he came through PGA Tour Latino America and trying to find his way. He's got some Latin heritage, and that's what got him the sponsor exemption into the OHL Classic. And so good finish for him. Hopefully he can continue to build on that by getting on the Web.com full-time next year.
All right, Brandon Grace, we know how talented he is, and maybe this will get him jump-started, Joel, the same way Justin Rose's game took off a couple of weeks ago. We'll see. I mean, he is playing this week too, so maybe this will really work out for him. Of course, I'm sure this is very emotional for him. South African winning there at this event, and now we'll just find out not only Brendan Grace but also Victor Dubuisson, another player that played well.
Yeah, Grace especially being he was the first South African to win that tournament since Trevor Immelman in 2007. He had a lot of fanfare there. He's always shown this, little flashy talent in big events. 2016 really wasn't the year we expect for him, in spite of that. He had that 62 at the Open. But, for the course of the year, he wasn't quite where we had hoped. But hey, he's, maybe this will jumpstart him. He, is going to be one of the favorites in the field. I believe he's ninth in the race to Dubai standings now. I mean, he's not going to win it, but he'll stay well inside that top 10 and, give him some good, momentum going into next year.
All right. So what's going on now with this, with this race, Jeff? What do we need to know about, on the European Tour? It's the final race to Dubai event. And it's a nice field this week, so it's a much better field than RSM. So this is going to be this is really, if you're watching golf this week, you're going to want to DVR. If you're on the East Coast, you're going to want to DVR the DP World Tour Championship.
Well, and it's their tour championship, like East Lake on the PGA Tour, or as what we have this week on the LPGA down in Florida with their CME Group Tour Championship. Bring your ribbon this week. Everything gets tied up at the end, all your season races and trophies and all of that. And what we have in the race to Dubai is a three-man race. That's what it's narrowed down to. There's no points reset or anything of that nature. Either you're in competition for this or you're not. Obviously, there's still plenty of a nice check, plenty of bonuses, perhaps for getting into the top 10 in the race to Dubai. But it's three guys. Tommy Fleetwood is your leader. Justin Rose is the fast-charging challenger who comes off 2 wins. Took last week off, but before that won the Turkish Airlines Open and the WGC event in China. So he comes in with momentum. And then Sergio Garcia still has an outsider's chance, even though for him to come up and steal the race to Dubai, he has to win. Justin Rose has to finish outside the top 4, and Tommy Fleetwood has to finish outside the top 11. Rose can win with a runner-up finish as long as Tommy Fleetwood does not win. So that's really where the focus is going to be, is how does Fleetwood and Rose stack up against each other on that leaderboard, because Fleetwood has to stay ahead of Rose, particularly if they're both close to the top, because of the points, the large numbers of points and the big gaps at the top of the leaderboard.
So do they play at this course every year?
Yeah, at Jumeirah, they have played I know they've played there since they started the race to Dubai, and that's been going on 4 or 5 years now. So there is some familiarity with the course for everybody that's been on tour that long.
All right, so bottom line is it's going to be, it's basically between Fleetwood and Rose is what you're saying, and Garcia. So Garcia's chances again, how remote are they?
Well, first of all, he has to win. If he doesn't win, then the rest of it doesn't matter.
Well, that's good. I like that. Force him to win. That helps.
If he wins, Justin Rose has to finish outside the top 4, and Fleetwood has to finish outside the top 11.
Well, that's doable, isn't it? How many in the field again? 50?
72.
Oh, that's doable, isn't it?
It is, except the way Justin Rose has been
that's
playing.
True. Yeah, that's yeah.
He's on a nice little run.
Okay.
Yeah, Fleetwood's been doing okay too. He's more up on the top because he's got as many race to Dubai starts this year as Rose and Garcia combined. So that's look, he had some quality this year, but there was a lot of quantity too helping out that average.
Well, what do you think? I mean, you got Rose as the heavy favorite. I mean, look how quickly that happens, right? So Rose is the heavy favorite at 6-1. Now Rahm is playing here. He's the second choice at 11-1. When was the last time we saw Rahm? Is that the WGC? Did he play in that?
I think it was. Well, I know he played the WGC. I am reasonably sure he has played at least one of these playoff events. Actually, no. Now that I check his chart, he has not played either of the playoff events. And again, he hasn't really made a lot of European Tour starts to get into that race from the get-go. And so for him, this is just kind of another end-of-season event without having to worry about playoff points and things like that.
All right, and then Garcia's 12-1. Grayson Fitzpatrick are 14-1. Fitzpatrick is playing well, isn't he? And of course Hatton is 16-1. It was eventual that he would come down. He would relax. Why is Fleetwood 20-1?
I think that he has just not had the form of late. He took a chunk of time off when he became a father not too long ago, and kind of was surprised to see that he was still in the race to Dubai lead when he came back. But he just has not been able to kind of get back into that into form since his return. I think he has only played the race to the HSBC Champions and the race to Dubai since. Actually, he took a month off. Now that I've got his chart up, he took a month off before the Alfred Dunhill Links, and in 5 starts since then, he's been okay. He's got a couple of top 10s, but everything else has been 20th or worse.
Yeah,
Fleetwood's. I'm sorry. Fleetwood's. He's had some really low rounds too. He's had 2 rounds of 63 lately. He's just not putting all 4 rounds together like he was earlier in this year. But a lot of it's all the distractions and that kind of thing. He's playing okay lately, but he's not playing anywhere near the level of a Justin Rose right now.
Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised though that even though he's been like in the top 25. I'm kind of surprised that he would be 20-1. Look, it's a good field. Don't get me wrong. But anyway, I think he's a bargain. Let's just put it that way. Francisco Molinari is also there at 20-1. And Dubuison's 22-1. So is he starting to show signs of being more consistent? Have either of you guys noticed that?
The first time I've seen Dubuison's name on a leaderboard in a long time was last week.
Okay, so still...
Yeah, I kind of feel like I did when all of a sudden Alvaro Quiros won a tournament out of nowhere. Dubison's been a little bit better than that, but it's going to be kind of wait and see on him.
All right. Also, Lowry seems to be, he's always somebody to keep an eye on. He's 28-1. Norman Wiesberger, Keimer played well last week, so maybe he's somebody to keep an eye on at 33-1. Ross Fisher's 33-1. Uline and Cabrera Bello are 40-1. Poulter, Westwood, and Peters are 45-1. Colsards, Kelton, and Avi Bonrot are 50-1. So anybody you like in there, Joel?
Yeah, and look at Hao Tong Lee at 70-1 too. He did real well last week, finished with the low round of the tournament. So it's kind of surprising to see him at 70-1 after that. But yeah, there's some good bargains.
And right above him is Julian Surrey, who was high up on the leaderboard last week until late.
Yeah.
Who is that?
An American from the Jacksonville area, kind of taking the same path that we've seen with Brooks Koepka and Peter Uihlein. Didn't fare well in his initial quest to get on the Web.com tour and decided to go to the European Challenge Tour and is working his way through the European path to the PGA Tour.
All right, so now let's talk about the Charles Schwab Cup because that was...
And by the way, you will not see Henrik Stenson in Dubai this week because of a strange rib injury that has forced him to sit out the last 2 weeks of the race to Dubai.
Okay, so no Henrik Stenson. Now the Charles Schwab Cup, and I don't think anybody would have been able to predict that Bernard Langer, even if he didn't win the event, wouldn't be able to capture the championship. But it is what it is. I don't know. Now, look, from my point of view, I look at this and I say, well, Sutherland has had a good season, and he did win the event. So, didn't he deserve it, Jeff?
No.
He deserved to win the tournament, but it's. And to be honest, according to the way the playoff system is set up, he's the legitimate winner. You can't argue with that. The argument is why is the playoff system set up? And we had this discussion at Eastlake earlier this year too, because Paul Casey sat in the same spot, number 5, had not won a tournament, not only in this year, but in a long, long time, and still had a chance to win the FedEx Cup if he would have won at Eastlake. So Kevin Sutherland did what Paul Casey could not do. And that is throw the system into a little bit of chaos and have people say, how does this happen when somebody who has not won anywhere in the world since 2002 all of a sudden takes home the Charles Schwab Cup ahead of a guy who won 1/3 of all the events he started this year, 3 of them majors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the flaw is not with Kevin Sutherland. Congratulations. The flaw, I think, is with the setup. And to create volatility, you get into these situations where somebody has a dominant season, and because he has a bad round or a bad weekend, all of a sudden it's as if in terms of the playoffs and the big enchilada at the end, all of those wins didn't count. And the whole key to that is the points reset. If you have a dominant season like Bernhard Langer, where his 7 wins were almost twice as many as anybody else on tour. Scott McCarron was second with 4 wins. He gets the same number of points by leading the reset as if there were 5 guys all jockeying for first place and they were all separated by a couple of 100 points, and the reset is exactly the same. And there's no bonus for having had a dominant regular season. There's no bonus for having swept the first 2 playoff events. If Bernhard Langer had reordered his playoff wins in any way, 1 and 3, 2 and 3, instead of 1 and 2, Bernhard Langer would have won the Charles Schwab Cup. He didn't win at the wrong time.
All right.
And the question is, should that be the way it plays out when nobody has won 7 events on the Champions Tour since 1999?
All right. So how do we construct then a system, Joel, where if a player's that dominant going into the 3 playoff events, that other players have a reasonable chance to win the championship?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. It feels like in this circumstance there needs to be like some kind of common sense amendment. I mean, the guy you have winning it, Sutherland did nothing wrong. He's a good guy.
Yeah, that was my point.
By the rules, he won. He had 6 fewer wins this year, 3 fewer majors. It's just a very unsatisfying ending. It's not like he just Langer stumbled down the stretch. He played decently in the last one, won the 2 previous ones. And
yeah, sure.
People are saying this is like the New York Giants winning the 2007 Super Bowl over the Patriots. I mean, they weren't the best all year, but they were at the best at the end. I don't know if it's like that though. It's a very unsatisfying ending, and I'm not sure what you can do. But I feel like if someone is leading by like a certain amount of wins on the year, or if they won the first 2 playoff events, maybe they should be getting a bigger advantage coming into the points reset. I don't know. This was a very unsatisfying ending to one of the greatest seasons we've seen from an individual on that tour.
Yeah, I think what really should have happened, Jeff, is that I think the only way that it really would have made sense for Bernhard Langer to lose that is sort of like, when you now I don't know what the difference is between the point setup on the PGA tours compared to the Champions Tour for the playoffs, but it should have been something similar, like, okay, Sutherland has to win, and then Langer has to finish 25th or worse in a 30-man field, something like that. That's it. And because it wasn't like Langer played poorly, I think it would have been a lot easier for us to digest if Langer would have just been really bad in the final event. And we would have been, all right, well, we could see that happen in the PGA Tour as well. If you're not going to play well in the championship event and the other guy that might have been the second best player wins the damn championship event, that week's event, then maybe he does deserve it in this playoff format. But that didn't even happen. So could they have structured the point system a little bit differently like that? And maybe that's what they'll need to do next time.
Yeah, I think the point structure, both for the FedEx Cup and the Schwab Cup, need a revisit. Based on the Casey and Sutherland situations this year, I believe that extending it to 5 golfers with a chance to quote unquote control your own destiny is too much. When the number 5 golfer on both of those playoff resets were guys that had not won all year. So perhaps we need to space things out a little bit more to a situation where number 5 needs help to win. I also have kind of mulled this over the last couple of days, and I think there may be a case to be made for reset bonuses. You can have your standard resets, but I think that perhaps we ought to have bonuses if you have had an exceptional season. If in the Champions Tour case, because that's what I was kind of contemplating more, and I don't know how the numbers would translate to the PGA Tour, but if you've had more than 3 wins in a season, 4 wins in a season is 15% of that schedule. So if you have had more than 3 wins, or certainly more than 4 wins in a season, maybe you should get a certain number of bonus points in the reset to give you a little bit more of advantage. And certainly Bernard Longer would have practically maxed out reset bonus points for having won 7 times, which is twice the 3 that I was kind of focused on. I think if you win the first 2 playoff events, or in the FedEx Cup situation, if you win any 2 of the first 3 playoff events, there should be a bonus for winning multiple playoff events. Build that into your reset. You can still have your standard framework for a reset, but if somebody's having an exceptional season, Rory McIlroy in 2012, similar situation, was winning everything in sight from the Open Championship. He didn't win the Open Championship, but from after the Open Championship all the way through, he should have had a bigger advantage over Brandt Snedeker when it came to Eastlake. So maybe there should be some sort of bonus points, a couple of hundred bonus points built in if you have done something exceptional in terms of winning tournaments. I'm not talking about top 10s or anything like that, but if you've got more than 5 or more than 3 or 4 wins, or if you've won multiple playoff events, those should be built in as a reset bonus.
Yeah, I mean, look, NASCAR's got the same problem with.
Yes,
we were talking a few weeks ago about how if Chase Elliott there was actually an opportunity for Chase Elliott to go on, win the championship, and never have won an event.
Yeah.
Which we were rooting for, of course, because just like in college football, we root for all sorts of crazy stuff to happen, so there's actually a real playoff. That's what we were doing in NASCAR. We're like, oh, come on. Let's hope that Chase Elliott wins the championship without winning, so they realize how absolutely ridiculous their point system is, and then they have to make some changes. So I don't know. I mean, you would only hope that this is a wake-up call to make some changes, both with the Casey situation and the Longer situation. But I don't know. I mean, is there any reason that you can think of why they don't? I mean, putting a points system together for a championship with everything on the line, I don't get how that's that difficult. Seriously. I mean, you sit in a room for a day, you get 3 or 4 people there, whatever, and you just go bouncing ideas back and forth all day long. If it takes 2 days, you go 2 days, you go through all sorts of different scenarios. What if this guy does this and this guy does that? I mean, heck, we do it when we're trying to put this fantasy game together, and we can kind of come up with something half decent. So, I mean, the greatest minds in golf can't come up with really, or any of these sports. They just can't. I don't know if there's a reason for it that we're just not thinking of. Maybe we're thinking that they're not getting it or something. Maybe they are getting it. Maybe there's just some reason why they're doing it this way. I don't know. Maybe we're giving them too much credit.
I think it comes down to too many cooks in the kitchen. If it's just you and me setting it up, then just you and me have to agree on something. But when it comes to the PGA Tour, and I'll use that because that's what I know, any ideas have to go through. First of all, go through the internal channels. Is this really what we want to do? Is this as volatile as we want to make it? Should it be more volatile? Should it be less volatile? And then you've got to submit it to the Player Advisory Council and then they get to kick it around. Is this really what we want? Is this too volatile? Would we prefer having things not be quite so quite so volatile at the end? Then you run it by the sponsors. You certainly run it by the FedEx people, and then it's got to go to the tour policy board. And so there are a lot of cooks in that kitchen by the time you're done with it, and that's why change happens very, very slowly on the PGA Tour. Now, what I can see possibly happening is maybe because of the Sutherland situation, the Champions Tour might be quicker to adopt a change, and that will be used as a trial run to see if they should tweak the FedEx Cup.
All right. Well, we'll see. Hopefully something comes about this situation. And I mean, look, at least the player who won the event won the championship. At least there's that. I don't know. I'm trying to find something in there. All right. By the way, I was going to say your boy John Daly almost won. See, you could have put a buck on Daly, and you would have had some drama there.
I should have. That would have been great. At least with the ladies' final coming up here, it's hard to see this kind of situation happening. Like if their number 5 Brooke Henderson ends up winning, the only thing people are going to see is a big travesty that she got it over Lexi Thompson. But yeah, like Jeff said, maybe there should be some bonuses there and that kind of thing. Thompson probably wouldn't have gotten those bonuses. At least we should get satisfied.
At the very least, Brooke Henderson has won an event this year. And I'll also say, I'll give credit to the LPGA. The way they're set up, even though they've got, I think it's 60 golfers in the field, only 12 can win in the points reset. They don't go bothering trying to figure out how number 29 can swoop all the way to the end. Number 29 should be there only because it's a great tournament with a big paycheck at the end. Yeah, you got to limit who realistically has a chance or deserves to win. And I like the fact that the LPGA makes it so that only 12 can actually win the whole thing at the end.
All right. So let's now talk about this week's PGA Tour event, the last event for the 2017 calendar year. And Jeff, your last chance to get a W here. Come on, man. If we don't get one, you better. So
well, yeah, I'm trying. I will say that I continued to lead the league in top 5 finishes.
Well, that's your fantasy.
So I'm great for the fantasy players out there.
And that's part of what we're doing here.
Yeah, this will be four straight wins among the 3 of us. We can figure this one out this week.
There you go. See, we got 3 straight weeks of winning picks on the show, and throw in Jeff's fantasy stats, and this is the show for you. So whether you're a gambler or you love playing fantasy sports for golf. Okay, so let's talk about this event. They've been playing at Sea Island since the inception in 2010. And just about everybody, I think there's most of the former champions are here. A lot of them, not everyone, but a lot of them are here. Now, what's the deal about this particular location, Jeff? This is where a lot of golfers like to. Do they live here? Is this like an actual home destination for these players?
Yeah, it really is. It's become one of those trendy golf hubs that you saw for a time in Orlando, and now you kind of see in South Florida in the Jupiter area and out west in Scottsdale. Well, Sea Island has become extremely popular as a place really for pros to maybe don't necessarily want to be in more of a urban setting. Scottsdale close to Phoenix, Jupiter close to the rest of South Florida, Orlando, well, it's Orlando. But Sea Island is an hour from Jacksonville, about an hour from Savannah. It truly is an island. It's really St. Simon's Island. Sea Island is the golf club. But Davis Love has lived out there his entire life practically. His father, Davis Love Jr., was a teaching pro out there, and the course dates back to 1929. But over time, as pros have come out and kind of either visited Davis Love or just come out for vacation. A lot of them decided this is a really great place to relocate. Matt Kuchar moved there from Atlanta. Zach Johnson has moved there from Orlando. Patton Kazire, once he got out of college, said this is Sea Island is a place where it's got a great golf course, great facilities, and some great guys that I can practice with. And now what we have is upwards of close to 24 professional golfers, not just PGA Tour, but Web.com, and even I think one or two women actually make St. Simon's Island their year-round home. And so this is very much kind of a club championship deluxe for a lot of those guys.
All right. So, and the course itself, again, what do we? This is particularly favoring anybody? Anything really eye-popping about this place?
It's a classic, older style golf course. It was, like I say, it goes back to 1929, and then Joe Lee built a second 9 out there in 1973, which in a Tom Fazio refurbish, they were merged into a single golf course, Seaside anyway. And it's not a Bombers golf course. It plays barely above 7,000 yards. It's 7,005 yards, par 70. Not too challenging in terms of difficulty of the greens. You really need to have greens in regulation, and then you've got to be able to putt on these Bermuda grass greens out there.
All right. So what are we doing this week? Who's got the first pick this week?
You do.
I do. Wow. Okay. Good for me.
Yeah.
All right.
If you have an idea. There's a lot of good names. I don't know that there's a standout.
No, the favorite, really, there is no heavy favorite here. The top favorites are Kisner and Brian Harmon at 18-1. So, hey, that's good for anybody that gets a winner this week. That no matter who wins, it's going to be somebody that's going to pay out. But you have Harmon and Kisner at 18-1. Kisner's the 2015 champ. You got Webb Simpson at 20-1. He was a playoff loser to Ben Crane in 2011. Matt Kuchar's at 22-1. You have Haas, and my top pick is going to be Charles Howell III at 25-1. So maybe it's time for Charles Howell to get a win. Kazire broke through. Howell's won already, but it's been a while. How long has it been for Howell now?
2008, I think it was.
Really, that long? Wow.
Yeah,
2007.
It has been a long drought, yes.
Yeah, so he last won at the Nissan Open in 2007. And he's been playing so long that his previous win was at the Michelob Championship at Kingsmill in 2002. What in the world is that?
That was a small fall event, kind of like what we have now at Sea Island.
Oh.
And that was, I think, when in his second year out on tour, and odd little story with that, but when the boom took place on the PGA Tour and purses rose and television rights rose, Kingsmill Resort came to the conclusion that they could not afford to keep a PGA Tour event at their resort. They were not able to find proper sponsorship or whatever, and so they let that lapse. And now they are one of the more popular stops on the LPGA Tour.
All right. Thanks for that little tidbit there. So, yeah, I'll go with Charles Howell III. Joel, you're next, right?
Yeah. I thought CH3 was a good bet to fall to the second pick, but I guess he did not.
No, he's played pretty well. Obviously, he's trending in the right direction. He's fourth place last week. He's also played well every time pretty much he's played here. He's got 3 top 10s, 13th last year.
Yeah, he's been good. There's another guy up there that I like quite a bit. I feel a little guilty taking Jeff's guy here, but Chesson Hadley at 28-1. I know he didn't do well last week. He had to withdraw. I think he said he was sick.
Got retired.
Yeah, I think he drank the water down there too or something. I feel like they should know that by now.
He hasn't taken any time off, so he needed it. Didn't we talk about that last week? I mean, he needed a
well,
rest.
He
we
did get
did,
rest.
and
he got the weekend off.
It all caught up to him at the end. No question about that.
So you think he's got enough energy after the weekend off?
Well, I do. I think he's got 3 top 4 finishes, before that withdrawal. I mean, he's been good in this tournament before. Last year he was in 5th place through 3 rounds, went 65, 66, 67. I mean, collapsed in the final round, but that's something you'll see with these younger players or new players that are earlier in their career sometimes. He's just been excellent with his irons and putters. Hopefully he's not tired. But I don't know. I mean, it didn't seem like he was like really sick, but I think he's going to rebound this week. I like him at 28-1.
All right. Next up is Mr. Jeff, and which way are you going to go, Jeff?
I'm gonna go a little bit higher on the chart than you guys, but not to the favorites necessarily. I'm gonna go right under that. Webb Simpson, I think, is one of these guys that is overdue for a win as well. We know how well that he has played, and he plays very well in these southern settings. So I will take Webb Simpson, who played very well, by the way, at the RBC Heritage, which is only a couple hours down the road.
Yeah, you've taken him quite a bit, haven't you, lately?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully this will pay off for you now because he does have 6 top 20s in his last 7, 3 top 10s. He's got a 3rd in there. As we mentioned, playoff loser to Ben Crane at this event in 2011. Simpson was definitely somebody that I was seriously considering first or second. So he's off the board. And there you go. Our top 3 picks are all 20, 25, and 28-1. So that's the kind of payout you're going to get this week. I'm going to go ahead with a player that I have also taken quite a bit lately, trying to see if he can break through and win. He finished 6th here last year. That's Ollie Schneider-Jans at 28-1. So he is my second pick. Joel?
I'm going to jump back to the top of the odds on this one. Brian Harman at 18-1. I mean, he's missed the cut the last 2 years, but he's a Georgia guy, and he's played really well in his first 2 events of this season. He had a tie for 5th and an 8th in 2 season events. I think in a field like this, it feels a little strange that he's the odds favorite, but he's there's good reason that he's among the favorites, I suppose.
Well, it's those 2 top 10s you're talking about. Yeah, he comes in really good form. Yeah. So, I'm kind of surprised, too, to see his name there at the top of the list. But he's got those 2 top 10s. And like you said, a local guy in the area. And
he's actually a St. Simon's Island resident.
Well, can't get more local than that. So, Jeff, who do you like after Webb Simpson?
Now, having said that, I'll also throw in the little kicker that in 7 starts, they have yet to have an actual St. Simon's Island resident win this thing. So there's that little push-pull going on with that.
Okay.
I'll take the next best thing because Kevin Kisner was a temporary St. Simon's Island resident when he won in the only in the only margin of victory that was greater than 1 stroke a couple of years ago. But we know how well he also plays in some of these southern settings and putts extremely well on Bermuda grass. It's a little bit of a risk because he has not played since the President's Cup, but there is going to definitely be a sense of comfort and familiarity here.
Yeah, but and before that, he had that strong 3rd place finish at the Tour Championship.
Yeah.
So his last PGA Tour event, he finished 3rd. He's got the win here 2 years ago. He's got a couple other top 30s, 4th in 2000. Well, actually, 4th the year before he won. So you can definitely see why Kisner is a co-favorite of this event. I'm going to go ahead and take another player that I've gone with a lot. I even said last week that I was thinking of taking him, as I have taken him a lot as an alternate, but I'm going to throw him in there as a 3rd pick. So not even as a long shot. I'll roll the dice on Patrick Rogers at 50-1. 10th here last year. He slid back to 14th last week, but he did have to play. I mean, his poorest rounds were over the weekend. And, of course, I'm willing to forgive him there with the weather and all that. But he does play pretty well at this time of year, and so maybe he can put it together as well. He'll be my third choice at 50-1, Joel.
Well, I got a tough choice between two players here, but I'm going to go down just a little bit further. I like Scott Brown a bit at 40-1. He tied for sixth at Mayakoba last week. He had a top five just a few weeks ago at the CJ Cup too.
Mm-hmm.
He was under 60 in all 4 rounds. Or not under 60. He was in the 60s in all 4 rounds last week, and he finished tied for fourth in this tournament in 2014. He putts well. Irons have been getting better this year. 40-1, I think that's a good number for him.
Yeah, I like Brown as well. Brown is somebody I was definitely thinking about. He's just playing well, and he's had some good showings here. So yeah, I think Brown is a player that might be able to break through, and because he's looking for his first win.
Yeah. No, he actually won in Puerto Rico a few years ago.
Forgot about that one. Yeah, he did.
Well, then this is probably where I feel comfortable in one of these events. So we'll see if Scott Brown can continue to play well. I think he will. So does Joel. So not a bad idea at 40-1. All right, Jeff. Simpson and Kisner. Who's your next choice?
Well, actually, so did I. I'll also put an endorsement on Brown because I was hoping he was going to slide down to this pick. But let me. There's no explanation necessarily for why Jamie Lovemark plays well at Sea Island because he's not a Southern guy, he's a West Coast guy, etc. But 2 of his career 11 top 10s have come at this particular golf course, and he was in the top 5 in Korea a few weeks ago. So I will put Jamie Lovemark on the list.
All right. So
that's the other guy I was split on the last pick. Either Brown or Lovemark.
Well, you see, you guys could have switched it then.
We could have, yeah.
So with Jeff's luck, Scott Brown will win. Well, hopefully you'll get lucky this week, Jeff.
And Jamie Lovemark will finish runner-up.
Yeah, he'll be top 5.
Count in that department.
All right, so Jamie Lovemark, 2 top 10s here in the last 2 years, is Jeff's choice at 33-1. Now time for long shots. These are players that are 50-1 or higher. And that doesn't mean you don't, again, I took Rogers already at 50-1. We can take these guys whenever we want, except for the alternates. So now with the long shot official, I will go, since I've already got Rogers, a couple of guys I have in mind, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll roll the dice at 100-1 with Brian Stewart. Not sure if I've ever taken Brian Stewart. But Brian Stewart has played decently here a couple times, and he does have 2 top 10s in his last 3 events. Winner of the Zurich Classic in 2016. So, hey, if you're going to take Brian Stewart, Joel, this would be the week to do it, I guess.
Yeah, he snuck back into that top 10 last week. He looked pretty good.
All right.
He's someone I definitely had my eye on.
Now, your long shot. Go ahead.
I am also going to go with a guy I have never taken before, but I like his recent form and his fit for this tournament. That's JT Poston at 66-1. He's his last 2 starts, he's a tie for 4th and a tie for 14th, and he's been great tee to green, especially around the greens lately. He looks like he's ready to really contend in one of these soon.
What do we know about him?
Well, he was okay last year. He picked some of his spots, but he hasn't won yet. But he's off to a good start for this year. Jeff probably has a little more on that than I do.
He's a young guy. He's a young kid, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yes, this is just his second year after coming off the Web.com tour, and I don't know. He certainly did not have a one of those standout collegiate careers like we talk about with an Ollie Schneider-Jans or Bryson DeChambeau, but seemed to play very solidly in his first year.
All right, Jeff, your official long shot.
I'm actually going to reach a little bit further down the board. I'm going to take another one of these locals. But Jonathan Bird won the Web.com Tour Championship a little over a month ago. Played extremely well in that. Actually, kind of had to be talked into playing it and wound up winning the entire thing. And he's going to be in a comfort zone at Sea Island at his home course, and it's a place where I'm not sure if he holds the course record or he's won off the course record, but he has played that course in 62. So I think that it's a real good spot for him. So he's 150 to 1. I am really rolling the dice here.
Oh, all right. Well, I was about to give you 175 to 1, but I guess his odds have dropped a little bit. But I don't think I don't think you would care though. At those odds,
hey,
you'll take it. For that, a win's a win. You'll take it. All right. So there you go. Your long shot, Jonathan Bird. I'm gonna go ahead with my top alternate. I've taken him a little bit lately because he is playing a little bit better. Field is definitely there for him, so I'll take Zach Johnson at 33 to 1 as my top alternate. 23rd last week. He's got a couple top 20s here on this golf course. Joel, your alternate in case anything happens to Hadley, Harmon, or Brown.
I'll go with another guy like the area, Matt Kuchar at 22 to 1. He was 13th in scoring average on tour last year. Obviously the experience factor. And he played well at the HSBC Champions until that really bad last round. I don't know if that's not really a habit for him. I'm willing to overlook that. He's a solid guy. That's one of my guys' withdrawals. I'll get at least a decent finish out of that.
All right, Matt Kuchar, who is he's got a bunch of top 25s here on this golf course at 22 to 1. Jeff, if anything happens to Simpson, Kisner, or Lovemark, who do you got?
Well, I think this is a guy that would have been in the regular lineup, certainly for me, maybe for you guys too, if he wasn't coming back from injury. But Brandt Snedeker is making his first start since shutting down his season late summer to deal with a rib injury. And I think he chose Sea Island because though he's not a resident, his coach works at Sea Island, so he's very familiar with the area and the course. And so it's a perfect place for him to come back and be a little relaxed. It's one start, and then he can go back on hiatus for 6 weeks, but he'll get a measuring stick. But I'll take Snedeker in the alternate spot.
All right, 45th last year here. Yes, we have not seen Snedeker since June. So, kind of unusual. We haven't seen him since June. He's going to play one event, and we're not going to see him again until to January, unless he plans on flying to Australia. So that's we'll see if Brent Snedeker can get going there. Good player. Nice to see him healthy again for 2018. By the way, the other players that we did not take, the non-long shots, we did not take Bill Haas at 25 to 1. Haas was runner-up here in 2010. We did not take at 40 to 1 J.J. Spawn, who's played well the last couple of weeks, 14th and 10th at 40 to 1. Jason Kokrak at 40 to 1. And Siwoo Kim, who finished third last week at 40 to 1. So as far as the long shot alternates, if anything happens to Stewart, I'm going to go. I talked about him last week. I don't think I had him. I don't know if I had him as an alternate or not, but I did throw his name out there. And I'm going to go ahead and put him in there at Bo Hostler at 50 to 1. He's going to be my alternate long shot in this event. He's got 3 straight top 35s and a couple top 10s. So 50 to 1, Bo Hostler. All right, if anything happens to your long shot Poston at 66 to 1, Joel, what are you going to do?
Well, I was targeting Hostler there too. He's played well outside of round 4s this year. I think eventually he'll figure that out. He closed plenty well in college, and his short game's been off the charts lately. I'm gonna go with the guy I've taken a number of times in this. Danny Lee at 66 to 1. I think he's more talented than his odds showing there. He's been a little inconsistent coming back from injury, but he did have a tie for 7th in Malaysia. He closed with a 66 last week. So I think he's just one of the more talented players in the field. I think he's good as an alternate.
Yeah, with Danny Lee, it's definitely he's got to stay healthy. And maybe the fact that he's, I mean, he was seventh at the CIMB, and then as you mentioned, the 25th last week. So maybe a couple of events. He's getting into the swing of things. No pun intended. He's got a really good odds set here in a weak field. So not a bad idea. Danny Lee at 66-1. All right, Jeff. So if anything happens to Bird, who is your alternate long shot?
I'm going to reach deep into the long shot category again. And I'm going to go for a guy that we haven't seen his name a lot because he's been on medical leave and actually still playing out a medical extension right now. But he has been 13th or better in this event on 3 occasions, and he's a St. Simons Island resident, Michael Thompson, and you will find him at 175-1.
Wow. Yeah, we haven't mentioned his name in a long time.
Long time.
Okay.
Not
so
just like the 2012 U.S. Open.
So he's playing well, or what's the reason? What is it that you're going with him here? What's the deal?
He's extremely familiar with the course, and he's got 3 top 15 finishes in 5 appearances there.
Okay. That's a very interesting pick. And he is an alternate long shot. So Jeff is throwing out the wild card in there. He did win at the web.com tour though, 2016, right? Is that what it was? Believe so. Yeah, web.com tour win in 2016.
Okay.
So at least he's got that something that's and look, it wasn't like he had a great year. But still, win's a win. And before that, it was that 2013 win at the Honda Classic.
Yeah, that's where I remember him from. Is kind of coming from nowhere to win a Honda Classic that actually was the Honda Classic still now is kind of where all the Europeans start to come over. And so that was a very high quality field, and he wound up winning it.
Yeah, and that was clearly his best year, too. He had a good run in 2012 and 2013. 2012, did you say, was the U.S. Open, Joel?
I believe so. It was the Webb Simpson one.
Okay.
Either 11 or 12. I think it was 12.
Yeah, it might have been.
Well, Webb Simpson would have been 2012. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was tied for runner-up with Graham McDowell and I think Jim Furyk was
okay.
Also
all right.
in
So
that
there you go.
wild and woolly Olympic club finish.
Michael Thompson is an alternate long shot. Other players, Graham McDowell, who is third here a couple of years ago, is 50-1. Russell Knox was ninth last week, but that was the first time he's really played well at all lately. So we'll see if he gets going here. Let's see who else. Sean O'Hare, he's got a lot of top 20s here. He's 66-1. Padraig Harrington is playing here. He is 100-1. 2014 champ Rob Streb, who just hasn't been the same player the last year and a half or maybe 2. So he's 125-1. And Chris Kirk, 2013 champ, is here. Another player who just hasn't been the same the last couple of years. But before that, when he was playing well, he really liked this golf course. But Chris Kirk just hasn't been playing well enough to go with him. And in a field like this, Bubba Watson is 66-1. So that just shows you where Bubba Watson's game has been. Stuart Sink, 80-1, was 10th last year. Defending champ Mackenzie Hughes is 100-1. Blaine Barber was in that playoff last year. He's 100-1. Camilo Villegas was also in the playoff last year. He's 125-1. And let's see, who else was in that playoff? Norlander was in the playoff. He is 150-1. Ben Crane, 2011 champ, is 150-1. What do we know about Braden Thornberry, Jeff? Because he had that great finish at St. Jude. What's the deal with this kid?
He's a junior at the University of Mississippi and the reigning NCAA individual champion. And he got into the St. Jude on a sponsor exemption, played extremely well. And he is in this field by virtue of winning the Jones Cup amateur event. And the winner of that gets an automatic invitation to the RSM Classic. So that's what brings Braden Thornberry to Sea Island this week.
Well, he just seems like a winner then, isn't he? He's
he's got an unusual golf swing that if you spend any time on Golf Channel and sometimes they get to dissecting it, it's one of those swings that, kind of like Jim Furyk's, where it works for him. We don't know who else it would ever work for, but it seems like when it works extremely well, and he has had an exceptional 2017 as an amateur.
All right. Well, Joel's got an unusual swing too, but
true.
We're not complaining.
Another player that I'm actually really excited to see in this tournament is Beef Johnston's finally back.
Beef.
I mean, he's at 66 to 1. I really wanted to take him, but I couldn't come up with a good reason to other than the fact that he's Beef.
It's got to do.
I think it's
got to
cool
start
to see
playing
him
better. Yep, the Beef thing can only go so far.
Yeah.
But all right, is it playing it for the first time? I think so. Maybe.
I think so.
I think that's correct, and really the only reason he would be playing this event is he didn't play well enough to qualify for the Dubai event to finish up his European Tour season.
All right.
Yeah, I think he's doubled his world ranking in the last year, like 86 to 150 something. Not a good year, but he's got the talent.
Yeah, he's heading back in the opposite direction. So not good. So hopefully he'll get his act together. Sean Stephanie, we talked about him last week. And he's a player that is starting to play a little bit better lately, so we'll keep an eye on him. Ryan Armour won a few weeks ago. He's 66 to 1. The likeliness of him winning again, of course, is not very good. By the way, did I mention Patton Kazire?
We did at the top of the show.
Well, he's 33 to 1. So just in case you actually think he could win back to back, which considering he did. He did get me a win. He's definitely worth a couple of bucks on my end. And now, there's a lot of players that some of them we've talked a little bit about, but some we still don't know about. Anybody else in this field that you guys, the Braden Thornberry types that we should be keeping an eye on? I mean, Harkins is a player that's playing well lately, 150 to 1. He's got 3 top 25s in his last 4.
I was very pleased to see that Brian Gay was on the leaderboard in Mexico, and he now comes to Sea Island, another player that plays extremely well in some of these southern events, and he's listed at 100 to 1. I took a look at him.
Yeah, Gay was someone I was just about to mention too, at 68-65 start last week. He finished tied for 4th in this tournament in 2014.
All right, and Luke Donald is also here. He's 66 to 1. And he plays well in South Carolina, doesn't he? Doesn't he, Jeff?
He plays well at Harbortown, absolutely.
Yeah.
But kind of same situation as Beef Johnson. The only reason Luke Donald is playing this event is because he was looking for a place to play and he didn't qualify for Dubai.
He's not that old, is he?
I think he's in his mid-30s now.
Well, that's not old.
No, not by golf.
So he's not 40 yet.
No.
I thought he would look closer to Stenson's age, but I could be wrong on that.
Well, he's, it's something else. I mean, it's not like his ranking isn't terrible. I mean, he's not outside the top 100. But
he's just not number 1 or close to it anymore.
No. His ranking has gone from 1 to 81, and it has risen every year since 2011. Okay, so last thing, Joel's going to be – we're not going to talk again. You're going to miss us? It's going to be about, what, 6 weeks? 7 weeks?
Yep. Yeah, probably till January. But, I mean, every sport needs an off season. This is, I guess, as good a time as any. But it'll be an exciting ending with the European and the LPGA finals this week. So there's still some good stuff there. But yeah, it'll be a little bit once that ends.
And what do you do when there's not when the golf? There is going to be some golf in Australia, correct? There'll be.
The Hero World Challenge too.
Yeah, but and those Australian events are in December.
Actually, the Australian Open takes place next weekend.
That's the one with Spieth?
That's the one that Jordan Spieth and Jason Day are both entered.
Next week,
there.
okay.
Royal Melbourne.
So that's the week before. That's next week. Okay, so it's in between the Hero and this week. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Actually, the Australian calendar obviously ramps up next week with the Australian Open, but they kind of play their three major events back to back to back, or maybe there's a 1 week gap in between a couple of them. But you have the Australian Open, the Australian Masters, and the Australian PGA, and that kind of fills up the December calendar for those that want to go there or that are native Australians. And the European Tour is gotten to be like the PGA Tour. They don't really take a break, and there are going to be some South African events in December as well.
All right. So, I mean, are those guys, Day and Spieth, I mean, they're going to play more than once? Do you know? I mean, Day probably
I think
will.
The Day very well might, particularly if he's looking to find some form in some friendlier confines, so to speak. But I think with Spieth, Spieth just loves Royal Melbourne, and that's why he committed so early to the Australian Open. But I don't think he's there for any sort of extended stay.
All right. So there is that. And, again, we will definitely be back in a couple of weeks for a few minutes. Jeff and I will just talk a little bit about the Hero World Challenge. No picks or anything. That's why we're not gonna interrupt Joel's vacation for that one.
I live in Michigan. That's not really vacation in December.
All right. Well, good luck with the game this week, and then against Ohio State. But what else is going on at Pro Golf Weekly, Joel?
Oh, thanks, Greg. Please check out Pro Golf Weekly at progolfweekly.com, where you can get all the stats, videos, compelling analysis, key highlights, and the best in social media for every pro tour worldwide, including the PGA and LPGA tours. And we have a bit of extended primers with these. For each of the tournaments, we have the one for the CME Group Tour. That's the LPGA one. We got the RSM Classic. We also have some. I put together some separate storylines that goes a little deeper into all the great things we have there. So, all the odds to win. All the stats. If you have any questions of anything that's going on this weekend, we have it on the site. And again, that's progolfweekly.com for the best in social media and your one-stop web portal for all pro golf tours worldwide. And please follow me at Joel J. Cook on Twitter, latest updates, commentary, and much more. And I guess we'll be doing this again in January.
Yeah, for Hawaii. Can't wait. Love watching Hawaii golf when it's freezing. When it's cold. Well, you'll be freezing, Joel.
Yeah, at least I get to watch some golf at like 2 a.m. That's always nice.
Yeah, what, this week? You talking about this week or in January?
Oh, I'm talking about Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii at 2 a.m.?
Well, probably not that late.
Yeah, I don't think so. Hey, it's just it is nice, though. But we got a ways before we get to Hawaii. So enjoy your time off, Joel. And we will definitely be looking forward to talking to you once again in 2018. And we're going to have a lot more stuff for the listeners by then, including some cool fantasy games to get back involved with. So, Joel, thanks a lot for your effort here in 2017, your maiden voyage with Prime Sports Golf, and we look forward to talking to you again in 2018.
Yeah, great. I've enjoyed being part of the program. I'll talk to you then.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
All right, that's Joel Cook, ProGolfWeekly.com. So, Jeff, you've got the first of all, you got the Around the Tours report that's available at PrimeSportsNetwork.com right now. You talk a little bit about the LPGA's season's point chase in there, and what else you got? You've got more info on that Colonial PGA Tour?
Yeah, Colonial looks like it may really be on its last legs, as we mentioned. I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. Their sponsor, Dean and DeLuca, the upscale grocer, is having financial issues and went to the PGA Tour and said, "We're not sure that we can live up to our financial obligations."
Okay.
So now the tour has essentially told Colonial, you need to dip into emergency funds or find some emergency funds to put this tournament on for 2018. According to reports, there probably will be enough to put the tournament on for 2018. But remember, after that, we're going to revamp the entire schedule. Or maybe not the entire schedule, but we're going to create space in the schedule to move the PGA Championship from August to May. We're going to create some room in the schedule to move the Players Championship from May back to March. And we're going to put all of the playoffs in August so that we can finish on Labor Day. That condensation of the schedule is going to eliminate or move 2 or 3 events. And so if the Colonial does not have a sponsor, even though it's been on the schedule for 71 years.
Wow.
Sponsorship runs everything, and
Sure.
if Colonial cannot find a replacement sponsor, they could be one that disappears from the schedule in 2019 as they start moving all those pieces around to accommodate the playoffs.
Yeah.
We can say the same thing about the National. It used to be the Quicken Loans National, except Quicken Loans isn't involved this year anymore. And so those seem to be the 2 candidates that may be the first ones off the board as they rejigger a little bit. And it's unfortunate because, Colonial not only has been on the schedule since the end of World War II, but, it's played where, Ben Hogan ruled, and it's got that tie to the game's history like that. But it's also a May date. And guess where the PGA Championship is moving? May. It's almost a natural to do that with no sponsor. And so that's going to be unfortunate if it happens. Good luck to the people at Colonial in trying to secure somebody beyond 2018. But I think it's a real uphill battle now that the tour has essentially kind of given some deadlines to the tournament. And if they can't meet them, there's no guarantee beyond 2018.
All right, well, out with the old and with the new, and I'm sure that in a couple of years when they redo the schedule, it'll definitely be all for the better on the PGA Tour. So, Jeff, we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. At some point, we'll update what's going on, and we'll preview the Hero World Challenge. How many players in that event?
There'll be 18.
Okay, so we got 18, and they're all good players, right? All of them are quality players.
Yeah, with the exception of Tiger Woods, every one of the others right now is in the top 20 or certainly 25 of the world rankings. It's a very high-quality, small field event out in the Bahamas.
There you go. So we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks here on Prime Sports Golf. So that'll do it for Joel Cook and for Jeff Shane. Thanks for tuning in to our last official Prime Sports Golf show. We'll have an unofficial Hero World Challenge one in a couple of weeks. But that's it for the show for 2017 as far as our preview for events with odds and picks and all that kind of stuff. We'll see you again in 2018. We'll have, again, a lot of cool fantasy stuff and much more right here on the show. Thanks to ProGolfWeekly.com, for Joel, for Paul Daly and their partnership. We look forward to an even better 2018. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and then that's it. And then it's on to 2018 for Prime Sports Golf on the Prime Sports Radio Network.